Russia sees the US as its rival and will do everything it can to achieve supremacy, including military might. For this reason, the European nation under President Vladimir Putin has been strengthening its military. The US is responding to the rising threat. However, it has a powerful weapon in its fight back: Elon Musk. With the multiple collaborations the US military has with the genius that is Musk, it can expand its capabilities significantly. What is the latest collaboration Musk has with the US military, and how will it help the US beat its rival, notably Russia? Join us as we dive into how Elon Musk collaborates to beat Russia. It doesn't matter what Elon Musk seemingly has a beef with the president of his country. He will rise to the occasion to defend his country when needed. And the US military is calling on Musk to help as it tries to counter the rising threat posed by Russia. But first, the tension between the two countries reaching boiling point following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, you might wonder how the two nuclear world powers compare militarily. Let's quick look at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, or IISS, yearly report, The Military Balance 2022, to find out. The U.S. defense budget for 2020 was $715 billion, dwarfing the $62.2 billion Russia spent during the same period. Russia has around 900,000 active military personnel compared to the U.S. 1.4 million. However, Russia has the upper hand with reserve personnel, numbering about 2 million against America's 843,450. Russia boasts 339 intercontinental ballistic missiles (ICBM) launchers, but that is less than the 400 that the US has. When it comes to combat-capable aircraft, Russia has 1,172, while the US has 1,574. The US has almost double Russia's attack helicopters and more than 8 times the uninhabited aerial vehicles possessed by Russia. On the sea, the US has superiority. It has 3 more ballistic missile nuclear-powered submarines and 13 more attack-guided missile submarines. America has 11 aircraft carriers, while Russia owns only 1. The US can also easily overpower Russia's destroyers, cruisers, and frigates, of which it has 113, while Russia owns only 31. However, Russia has invested in more amphibious ships, owning 49 compared to the 31 owned by the US. The US and Russia both possess intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance equipment, while Russian Space Command leases radar technology from neighboring states. Both have communications and satellite equipment, although the US also possesses counter-communication systems in space. Despite its obvious superiority, the US military is at high alert and is always seeking to advance its military capabilities. One of the most recent significant additions is the US Space Force. It was established in December 2019 and will be stood up over the next 18 months. The U.S. Space Force is a military service that organizes, trains, and equips space forces to protect the U.S. and allied interests in space and provide space capabilities to the joint force. USSF responsibilities will include developing Guardians, acquiring military space systems, maturing the military doctrine for space power, and organizing space forces to present to our combatant comrades. Even though the U.S. Space Force is still young, it has already collaborated several times with Elon Musk through his space exploration company, SpaceX. The company received a $316 million contract in 2020 for launches between 2022 and 2024 for the U.S. Space Force, including National Reconnaissance Office, or NRO flights. Earlier last month, SpaceX sent a U.S. spy satellite to orbit in the second of 3 planned launches over 4 days. A 2-stage Falcon 9 rocket carrying the NROL-87 payload lifted off from Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. Of course, it is not clear what the spy satellite will do up there. Space Force is not in the habit of disclosing the purpose of its satellites. The NRO operates the United States' fleet of spy satellites. In fact, showing the mission's sensitivity, upon the NRO's request, SpaceX ended the launch webcast just after the first stage touched down. However, Musk's collaboration with the U.S. military is much deeper than launching satellites for Space Force. For example, Musk has just signed on to a massive air defense project with the U.S. Air Force. The project is known as Rocket Cargo. What is Rocket Cargo? According to the Pentagon, it is a military program that the U.S. Space Force leads. The program researches and helps develop capabilities such as landing a rocket on a wide range of non-traditional materials and surfaces, engineering a rocket cargo bay, and logistics for rapid loading and unloading. and airdropping cargo from the rocket after re-entry to service locations, where a rocket or aircraft cannot possibly land. The Air Force's 2022 budget proposal requested millions of dollars for rocket cargo to continue the work it began last year to pursue the implementation of rocket cargo. Central to the rocket cargo program is the new rocket SpaceX is building, Starship. It is the most powerful rocket ever developed and tested at SpaceX's Starbase facility at Boca Chica in Texas. The Starship is a 120-meter-tall spacecraft that is 9 meters wide. It is a two-stage rocket that is completely reusable, making it better than the Falcon series that can only be reused partially. It is the only rocket in development that will be capable of multiple flights. After taking off and escaping from the pull of Earth, the Starship will separate into the upper and lower stages. The lower stage, also known as Super Heavy, will return to land and get ready for the next launch, while the upper stage, known as the Ship, will continue to its destination. Both stages are powered by a set of new Raptor engines that SpaceX is developing in tandem with the rest of the rocket. Rocket cargo will take advantage of the high payload capacity of the Starship, which can lift up to 150 tons of cargo to low Earth orbit, and the fast travel speed to strengthen the US military in its response to provocations or attacks. This kind of application for the Starship is known as point-to-point space travel. This is a form of transportation in which a rocket would launch into space and then return to another location, making it hypothetically capable of bringing supplies or possibly people from one side of the Earth to the other in under an hour. The military may even use it to transport troops from one part of the world to another, depending on the results of its tests. Speaking on why the U.S. Air Force selected SpaceX for rocket cargo, Dr. Greg Spangers, the Air Force Research Laboratory's leader on the rocket cargo program, said, "We talked to a number of providers that we see potentially coming to the table to compete for these contracts. SpaceX is certainly the most visible, no question about it. However, Musk's SpaceX isn't just the most visible, but it is also the most capable, because it has now won a contract in the next stage of the rocket cargo project. The contract is worth over $102 million and covers a span of 5 years. At the signing of the agreement, Spangers said that the contract formalizes a government-industry partnership to help determine exactly what a rocket can achieve when used for cargo transport, what is its true capacity, speed, and the cost of the integrated system. This contract is actually the largest one awarded to date for rocket cargo. The U.S. Transportation Command in 2020 signed cooperative research and development agreements with SpaceX and Exploration Architecture Corporation, XARC, to study concepts for rapid transportation through space. The command last month also signed a CRADA with Blue Origin. However, at this stage, the contract is not specific to any of SpaceX's launch vehicles. Air Force Research Lab, or AFRL, will have access to SpaceX's commercial orbital launches and booster landings to collect key data on environment signatures and performance. SpaceX also will provide cargo bay designs that support a rapid load and unload, and more compatible with U.S. Transcom intermodal containers. The contract also includes an option for a full-up demonstration of heavy cargo transport and landing. Aside from transporting cargo and supplies for the U.S. military, the contract also extends to disaster relief and humanitarian aid deliveries. However, there aren't spaceports everywhere that disaster strikes, so landing a rocket filled with necessary supplies is a challenge that will have to be overcome. To deal with this obstacle, Spangers said that the AFRL is exploring a wider range of novel trajectories to mitigate overflight issues, exploring a broad range of landing options for austere sites, researching human factors when landing near populations, and integrating a broader range of cargo including medical supplies. AFRL will be leveraging several commercial demonstration launches over the next few years to collect the data. The Air Force will collect data whenever SpaceX flies relevant missions. A full-up demonstration of heavy cargo transport capability to another location on Earth could be attempted in a few years, but that has yet to be decided. However, rocket cargo is not the only project Musk is collaborating with the U.S. military on. SpaceX has been testing its Starlink broadband beaming internet service on board a U.S. Air Force tactical aircraft. According to a request filed with the Federal Communications Commission, SpaceX is modifying its experimental authorization for additional test activities undertaken with the federal government. The tests are designed to demonstrate the ability to transmit to and receive information from 2 stationary ground sites and 1 airborne aircraft at one location, and would add to these limited testing from a moving vehicle on the ground. SpaceX is collaborating with Ball Aerospace, a defense contractor, for the demonstration. The test also falls under the Air Force Research Laboratory's Defense Experimentation Using Commercial Space Internet, or DEU CSI program. A $9.7 million contract Ball was awarded. The plan is to integrate a custom installation kit consisting of mechanical plates for the low-profile antennas and a fairing to reduce wind drag on the aircraft. SpaceX has previously demonstrated the ability of SpaceX's non-geostationary orbit system to transmit and receive information between both fixed sites on the ground and airborne Earth stations aboard moving aircraft. So far, SpaceX has launched more than 2,000 Starlink satellites, but it is launching more, with the primary aim of providing millions of customers, partially in rural areas, with satellite broadband. But clearly, the US military also wants to benefit from Starlink. It can provide a faster internet connection to its troops anywhere globally, including a war zone or the remote jungle, provided there is a receiving dish. Let's hear what you think of Musk's collaboration with the US military in the comments section below.